Everybody back with another week 4 analysis of the NFL. Heard you guys in the comment section. Waited another day to post this just so we get all the games in and get a little bit more of the news underneath our belt. So hopefully that kind of contributes to a little bit better quality analysis during this video. Heard you guys said too, you guys enjoyed having Kyle back on the call. So we got him as well. As always, let us know what you're thinking in the comment section. And if you're enjoying the video and analysis, definitely like and subscribe if you haven't already. But we'll start with the much anticipated Thursday night football game with the 3-0 Dolphins and the 1-2 Bengals, surprisingly, coming off a win against the Jets here. You see this line is the Bengals -3.5, which is surprising at first when you realize that there's a possibility that Tua will not be playing quarterback for the Dolphins game on a short week with that head/neck injury. It's kind of unclear right now. But for me, Sliwa, I think if Tua does play, I mean, the Dolphins won a lot better than I thought they were going to this year. And they kind of look for real, especially after a win against the Bills. It's hard to argue against that. But if Tua is playing, I think it's +3.5 is gold, which I know you like that too. But is he going to play is a big question. When the news officially hits, the line is going to swing one way or the other. So it's kind of like taking a gamble if you want to bet on that. But something tells me the Bengals are going to win this game. I almost want to say even if Tua plays because I don't think he's going to be completely healthy. Because you see that hit, like he took that hit, got up and like wobbled a few times, and like something was definitely not right with him.
Yeah. Plus sitting at 3-0, I could see them not rushing him back necessarily.
Yeah,
Sitting in a good spot. They have a great defense. Could try to lean on them.
yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
everyone knows about the secondary there in Miami, but they're the pass rushing like Melvin Ingram. They were getting to Josh Allen and the Bills. It's not an easy thing to do. So I was impressed by that aspect of their defense as well. Again, they just impressed me this season.
yeah. No, I didn't expect this at all from them, to be honest. Watched a lot of training camp. Tua did not look that good to me personally.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
definitely connecting with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, a lot better than I expected.
Waddle is for real too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not giving up on the Bengals this year. Obviously, the odds makers aren't either.
Yeah,
I think,
no.
like you mentioned, I think they win this game even. So, especially taking a gamble with Tua. So, personally, won't be touching this one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if Tua plays this game, it's not going to stay at 3.5. And when he's officially announced out, I don't think the Bengals will be only favored by 3.5 against a Teddy Bridgewater led Dolphins team, despite how good they look all around. Um, but again, you never know. Yeah, not touching the game anyways. But the Bengals started out slow last year and got into a groove late in the season. Don't be surprised if it happens again. Going to again with the Browns coming off a long week against that Thursday night win and terrible backdoor cover against me for the Steelers. It killed me. Against the Falcons in Atlanta, where the Falcons have been surprising a lot of people this year, myself included. Although we did call last week that they were going to beat the Seahawks on the road, which is not an easy thing to do, no matter who's playing quarterback for Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I think this Falcons team is just really fun to watch this year. Got an explosive offense. Defense isn't quite there yet. I think that some pieces are coming together. Drake London, nobody was talking about him in the offseason, still the highest drafted rookie wide
Yeah.
receiver. He's starting to get some of the shine he deserves.
Yeah, and they're trying to get Kyle Pitts involved a little bit more in that offense. I know fantasy owners, especially, were getting
I
really
have
upset with his. You got him
yeah.
getting really upset. I wanted to get him in just about all my leagues and got him in 0 of them. I think he'll pick it up, but people want to get him more of the target share. He's starting to get that. Let's see if he does it back to back weeks. But in this game against the Browns, like you mentioned, this sluggish defense for Atlanta. Obviously, the defense is a strength for the Browns. Myles Garrett, car accident. We'll see if he's playing or not, but he's obviously a big piece of this defense. Some people are saying the Myles Garrett car accident game of the week.
I'm one of those people. I think Miles Garrett, despite the car accident, apparently no broken bones. He's
Yep.
going to be back. Even if he isn't back, I think the
Yeah.
Browns still win this game on the road. Just a much better overall team. I think I think this line's juiced a little bit. I don't like the Falcons beat the Seahawks, who
Mm-hmm.
I don't think is a good football team at all. Like we mentioned, we had that pick already made. So I don't know. Yeah, it seems almost like a trap, but I think the Browns -1.5 here is too good to pass
That's
up.
what I was thinking when you suggest this one. I'm like, it really looks good on paper. It feels like a trap, but at the end of the day, like I love just if you watch any of these videos, you know what kind of football team I like. I love a team that's going to run the ball as much as they can and play good defense, and that's what the Browns do. And I think more often than not, like in a close game, in a shootout, in a coin flip, that's the kind of football that wins. And so I'm with you here, man. I think the Browns on the road got us. Jacoby Brissett looks very formidable at quarterback. That's for sure.
Yeah,
To say the
Brissett.
least. I mean, he's
Yeah,
arguably better than Marcus Mariota. Maybe not just in the film this year, but like he's made a career being a solid backup, if not started like when he was in Indy. So yeah, I mean, with Nick Chubb running the ball too, like and such good defense on the Browns, I think I like that too. And as long as Jacoby Brissett doesn't make mistakes, I think the Browns win this one. And I think you're right, the line's juiced a little bit because the Falcons have looked really good this year. And are they going to stay legit, kind of like they have been? Granted, a little bit of an easier schedule, or are they kind of going to fall back to reality? And I think hopefully this game is where they fall back to reality.
I think so as well. Also, just one quick note:
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett coming off the highest passer rating of his career against the Steelers last week.
That's a solid D for sure. And not at the same without TJ Watt, but a solid D for sure.
Yeah,
Going to a good, I don't know if you want to call it good by the way these two teams have played this year, but solid divisional matchup here in Vegas with Raiders hosting the Broncos here. I'm sure you feel the same way, but the Broncos have been more of a letdown for me than the Raiders this year.
yeah, which is weird with the, the Broncos sitting at 2-1, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it. Squeaked out a couple. They could even be 3-0, and still haven't looked that impressive. I guess the defense is living up to the hype. Wilson has just not connected at all with those receivers. Like the passes that he misses are just not even close. It just doesn't seem like there's any chemistry on that offense right now.
And I think I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's all about chemistry because a lot of those times he's making those passes that are completely off the mark. It's Judy and Sutton running option routes, and Wilson's on one page and the receivers on the other. And so that's what I think is the disconnect there. I think that's only going to come with more time. Kind of like you see Rodgers with his every single season, he gets new wide receivers, takes him a little bit to settle in with those guys. I think Wilson needs that time to get really comfortable with that offense and with his receiving core. So I think throughout the season, the Broncos are going to get better. But in this position here, on the road against divisional opponent, Raiders 0-3, desperate for a win. I personally like the Raiders here in this spot. I think you do too.
Yep. Yeah. No. Yeah. This is one of my favorite picks of the week. Raiders sitting at 0-3. Obviously, that division's brutal, but there's still tons of people who had the Raiders as a playoff team, let alone thinking they were going to make a run with Devontae Adams. Raiders team's not bad. They've played a tough schedule so far. I just think, like you said, desperate must win type of game for this early in the season. You can't drop to 0-4.
No, they're better than 0-4.
Exactly.
They have too much talent to be 0-4.
Yeah, at home too. I think they have to pull it out, and I think they will.
Yeah, I really do too. I mean, they had that crazy loss against the Cardinals at home, but I love this Raiders home field advantage. And I mean, their offense is not the problem. It's the defense. And in this game, I think they can live with that because the Broncos offense has looked nothing special. Probably going to see more than 44.5 points this game, but I think the Raiders pull this one out.
I'm gonna say, yeah. I mean, tough to tell if you don't know what you're gonna get from the Broncos.
Yeah, it's just
Hopefully, this isn't the week they click, and I'm gonna bet against that.
yeah. I mean, I do think they're going to come together. We just got to hope it's not week 4. And I think just in the position in this game, the Raiders are a good better because when teams are like I said against the Colts, or said about the Colts this last week, when teams' backs are against the wall in desperation mode, they're going to win games they shouldn't. I call the Colts being the Chiefs. It didn't make any sense, but it happened. This
Right.
one's a little bit more reasonable, but it doesn't have to make sense always to be the right pick. And I think this might be the situation here with these guys, back against the wall, looking to avoid an 0-4 start. So I like that pick a lot too. Definitely one we'll be betting on. Last game we're going to be betting on Cardinals on the road against the Panthers. Talked last week about how the Panthers are one of the worst teams in football. I look back on it and I knew immediately putting on the card that the Raiders or Saints -2.5 on the road against the division opponent was the biggest trap line of all time. I knew they were going to lay an egg in offense because this Panthers defense is pretty solid. It's the offense that's really, really brutal for them. Without a defensive touchdown that game for them and Alvin Kamara fumble, then it's a much different ballgame. But the defense is going to help this team to the extent that they can, limit the opponent's offense because Baker Mayfield and that offense aren't putting up too many points. Cardinals let me down this season just in terms of expectations, but missing a lot of guys at wide receiver. But I think they're at the end of the day, the more talented roster of these two teams. And the spread kind of implies that being less than 3-point dogs on the road. But what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I know we called that one wrong last week, but I'm still in the belief that the Panthers aren't that great of a football team.
Oh, they're definitely bad. They're still bad.
Like you mentioned, the Saints just played awful. I think the Saints beat themselves more than the Panthers beat them. You can say whatever you want about the game, but I'm still not too impressed with the Panthers. Then
No.
again, Cardinals not that impressed either. I just think, like you mentioned, a lot of value on the Cardinals there on the road. Think they're a better overall football team. Panthers Panthers honestly have maybe just as good of a defense, but I just think the Cardinals still have enough weapons. I think Kyler could
It's
still
just
have that breakthrough
Kyler.
game. He just hasn't been that guy.
Yeah.
It's tough to tell, but
It's
I
the
like
new Call of Duty
Kyler a
coming
lot.
out. The new Call of Duty came out. That's why he's doing terrible.
Yeah.
But he's just Kyler for me is such an X factor. Like I love at the end of the day, like in a close game, things that really matter to me are home team and X factor quarterbacks, and that's the Cardinals here. Obviously not the home team, but the X factor quarterback spot. And I while he hasn't been playing amazing this year, Baker Mayfield certainly has not either. So I think the Cardinals win this game close. Hoping Kyler starts to pick regular Kyler again. He's not going to be crazy, but I think he's definitely better than what we've seen. Um, Cliff Kingsbury will be able to drop enough for these guys to win. I think it's again competitive division, competent players, like better roster. I think the Panthers have a better defense, but better overall roster. I think, and just I think head coaching means a lot and can say a lot about a team. I think the brain trust in Arizona is a little bit better in Carolina. All these things in a close game, I think, give the edge to them, and that's why taking them to win this game.
Yeah. Like we mentioned last week too, I think Matt Rule is one of the worst head coaches in that
Yeah. I'm not a believer in him. I don't think he's given a ton of help on offense, but also at the same time, he's got Christian McCaffrey, he's got DJ Moore. He does have weapons.
Yeah,
Like
you have
his quarterback situation that he's inherited hasn't been great, but I think he can.
yeah.
I mean, you saw Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. At least at some points, he was serviceable as quarterback, and maybe he'll unlock that again, or he'll just let the talent go to waste. But he hasn't been impressed me at all as coach there. Going on to, this game was the Minnesota Miracle way back in the day, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. One of my favorite games of all time. It's the Stephon Diggs touchdown, if you remember that. But Vikings Saints here. Again, Saints offense looks pretty inept. Alvin Kamara not looking like his old self. Mike Thomas, slow start. Chris Olave, it seems like every time I see a Saints highlight, whether it's a catch or not, it's just Chris Olave runs straight down the field and Winston throwing a 60-yard bomb to him. And maybe it connects, maybe it doesn't, but that's like the only looks he ever gets. And then the Vikings side of offense, Dalvin Cook. I mean, I think the Eagles defense is pretty solid, and but the Detroit one isn't great. And Dalvin Cook hasn't been doing too much. Justin Jefferson kind of disappeared last couple games. It's going to be interesting, this one, to say the least. I want to hear your perspective, because I honestly can't decide which side to pick here in terms of spread.
Yeah, I feel like off the bat, I would probably lean the Vikings, but I think that's a little bit too much recency bias into last week. I think
Well,
the
you
Saints
can't.
really just played awful last week. Like they didn't get it going. The Kamara fumble hurt a lot. They just they just faltered quite a bit on offense. I don't think the Vikings are that great. I think they should have lost that game straight
Yeah,
up to
I
the
do too.
Lions. So yeah,
Lions took that
I think
game, as the
there's
Lions
a little
do.
bit of a skew in the end there. And with the Saints at home, I think they still have the better defense.
Oh,
I
100% they have a better
yeah,
defense.
I still like the Saints in this one. I think Jameis bounced back, gives them enough points. I would love to see the old Jameis. I know he had more
Yeah, I
weapons
know.
on Tampa, but like I just want him to start seeing sling it around. I know you have a defense, so you might want to play a little bit more conservative, but he hasn't had that X factor that I think he is capable of playing up to.
He's not playing the right style of offense, but I'm looking forward to maybe seeing him kind of break out into his old shell again too. For me, again, I can't really pick what side here, but I like the under here because I like the Saints defense a lot to shut down and slow down the Vikings offense. And I'm not a huge believer in the Saints offense right now. So I think the under is a good pick for someone like me that doesn't really have a strong opinion either way. But I think picking the Saints here is solid thinking too, because you can't just go based off of what did I see last week that looked terrible, so I'm not picking them. That's just not how the NFL works.
Yeah, I think the Saints bounce back at home. All right, next up we got the Seahawks +6 heading to Detroit. After week 1, that Seahawks win, they really haven't been the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just falling back to back now and not really, or I guess they kept it somewhat close against the Falcons, but that's arguably one of the worst teams in the league. But I think they have a good offense. They could end up greater middle of the pack, but nonetheless, the Seahawks team has not looked impressive. Whereas the Lions at 1-2 now, I think they've looked really good through the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. Once again,
Yeah.
they can't finish like last year.
Well, that's the Lions. That's their identity. Their defense has been their weak spot, but their offense is. I said last week, and I keep believing now. Their offense is legitimately good. And this is completely uncharted territory for Detroit Lions fans, as they were favored by a touchdown. What? Like
That's
when was the
crazy.
last? Well, I would love to know when the last time that's happened outside of like playing a backup quarterback, which and I guess Geno Smith almost is, but that doesn't count. This is Geno Smith is the Seahawks' #1 quarterback, so it's crazy to me. I mean, you can see by this total. There's supposed to be a lot of points this game, because obviously the Lions can put up a lot of points, but their defense seems to, just like what happened last week against the Vikings, just let teams stick around. That's why they lose so many games. Their defense lets bad teams hang around.
Yeah.
Um, I I feel like I'm not gonna bet this, but I feel like an idiot saying I think the Lions are gonna cover this. I don't know. I don't think it needs much explanation. I think if you see their offense and you know their offense is legitimate, and I think that's almost enough at home to say that. But it makes me feel like so stupid. I'm gonna come back next week and be like, why the hell did I ever say that? But I think that's what I'm gonna stand by. Not actually betting it, but if you put gun in my head, what you got to pick here, and I'm gonna pick Detroit -6.
I don't know. The more I think about it, I think I'm gonna personally take the Lions -6 here. I think they
Let's
win by a
go.
touchdown.
I love Jeff Okudah at cornerback stepping up. I say it every time a really good cornerback gets drafted. It is the hardest position in football to transition from college to NFL. This is his third year being coming off of the #3 overall draft pick by the Lions, and he's finally stepped up. He shut down Justin Jefferson. He's been playing really well this season. I think he'll do a good job guarding whoever's lined up against like Metcalf or Lockett. So I think that's part of the reason I like the Lions uh, -6 here, but a lot of other weaknesses on this Lions defense for sure. So if I had to lean one way, it would be the Lions -6, but that's just feels so stupid to say. Just feels
Yeah.
stupid.
Next up, we got the New York Jets +3.5 heading to the Steelers. Both teams coming off losses last week. What's your initial thought? A lot of shaky quarterback play from both teams here.
Yeah, so that's to say the least. And this is something that I haven't monitored, but this is around the time that Zach Wilson's supposed to get back. I'm not sure. I think it's going to be probably a game time decision for him. I would like to see what happens if he plays. Either way, the Jets have, big play potential in them on offense. They have a solid defense led by, defensive-minded head coach Robert Saleh. Steelers defense is not the same. It is just not even close as efficient without TJ Watt, because he provides so much of an X factor, both in the run game and then putting pressure and obviously sacking the quarterback and getting to that a lot. So I think 3.5 is like the perfect spread here, because if you get the Steelers on paper, the better team, certainly more talented all around. And so when you get the better team at home, 3 points, you take that. But when it's 3.5, it gets a little bit dicier. And so for me, I think it's going to be the over. I mentioned like the big play potential. Garrett Wilson's been balling out, a rookie wide receiver there. Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson, both have big arms. Again, the Steelers defense isn't as good as it used to be without Watt. It did not look. I mean, as you said, Brissett highest passer rating as a quarterback in his career. That was against the Steelers defense. Like that doesn't happen that often against the Steelers. I think it's very telling. And then obviously you get their big playmakers in the Steelers offense, like Najee Harris will do his thing. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens with that absolutely insane catch on Thursday Night Football, which people will be talking about for a while probably.
Oh yeah.
And then you got Chase Claypool too. So I just think there's enough big play potential for the over here. Anything different that what are you thinking there?
I could see it. I personally don't love anything on the board here. I think the line, as far as the spread and the total, those are each pretty fair. I don't I can't trust Trubisky. That's some of that just trust issues as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He looked awful against the Browns. Obviously, the Browns have a great defense, but I have a hard time just seeing a lot of points put up on the board in this one. To be honest, but not enough to bet either way.
I think this 41.5 is just low enough for it to work. But also in Trubisky's defense, he had some good throws. He didn't look great. He had some good throws where his receivers, Deontay Johnson especially, was dropping some really nice passes. And so I think he gets a little bit of slack, but not a ton. I'll say that. That's the last thing I'll say about that game. But I have a little bit more trust, but marginally more than Mitch than you do. Yeah. Speaking of Mitch, we got the Bears taking on the Giants after that loss, after like letting them like 17 or 13 straight points against the Cowboys there with Cooper Rush at quarterback here. Two pretty crappy teams. That's why the home team's favored by 3 points. And you see this low total here. The lock of the week last week, Bears money line.
That's true.
Here we go. That will be probably the last time the Bears money lock of the week, probably for the next 5 years. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, both teams just looked awful in their last games. I know there's some recency bias there because just this last week we are talking about how both of them look pretty good. They're looking a little better than what we expected at the start of the year. So it's funny how quick things could flip. I just think Fields looks terrible.
I was about to say I'm officially out on Justin Fields.
Like
there'll be a time
the defense looks good. I'm surprised, because my big thing on the Bears this year, I thought both the offense and the defense is going to be down. The defense is still there. They're still carrying this team.
Roquan is insane. He is
Brisker, the rookie Brisker.
Yeah.
He's definitely the man in the secondary.
Eddie Jackson making plays again,
I just can't put any money.
How can you ever? I won't.
What he's looked like. It was like 5 of 14 in the first half with like 2 picks or something. It is brutal.
And the picks weren't even close, by the way.
Yeah.
And he finished the game with like 99 passing yards. Knowing if you told me Justin Fields was going to go for 99 yards and you told me I had the Bears as a lock, I'd say I hate my life. I'm done betting. How did they win that game? I don't know. And I probably won't pick the Bears again. So if I had to lean one way, I do Giants -3, but
yeah, I would throw them in a teaser maybe, or throw them in a parlay, Giants money line maybe. I don't see the Bears winning this game, but at the same time, the Giants look pretty awful.
These are such bad teams. You shouldn't even want to be betting on this game, let alone even watching this game.
Shouldn't be a fun one to watch.
The reason this is 39.5. Jesus, I don't know. I'm not watching that one. Moving a little quicker here, Slee. We got another matchup: Titans, Colts. Colts again. Boom. I'm going to point to myself. I make a lot of wrong picks here, but that was a good one for me. Saying the Colts money line there as 6.5 point favorites. I was getting eaten alive in the comment section, especially by Survivor people when I said don't pick the Chiefs, and it feels good to be validated. Titans, we all didn't. We called the win against the Raiders at home, although it got close. So we're getting good at calling this AFC South here. But so what are you thinking here?
It's
a tough game.
I feel like the last 3 years, both of these teams I view in a very similar light. They're they're good. They're both obviously at the top of the AFC South. I can't put either of them into that contenders tier, but they're both very solid football teams. They run well. I kind of like the Titans here, to be honest.
I'm glad you said that because I picked the Titans +3 too. Okay. Again, not betting it, but if I had to do a lean, the one thing I said about the Titans, and this is the kicker over the Colts, they play much more mistake-free football than the Colts do in the past. And that's why they normally win these matchups. Even when I've seen Carson Wentz and any other Colts quarterback just blow games against the Titans because the Titans don't turn the ball over that much. At least when you compare it to Matt Ryan, the amount of times I've seen this guy get strip sacked for his lack of awareness in the pocket, get your head in the swivel, dude. I was pissed against that Chiefs game because I thought he was single-handedly going to blow that game. Took a fourth quarter time expiring comeback. But glad to say that. I like the Titans +3 here too. More fundamentally sound football team. I think that's if you're going to pick a side, that's a good reason why. And Derrick Henry too. Come on. Still, at the end of the day, I take Derrick Henry over Jonathan Taylor.
Colts love to play up and down to their competition.
They
Put
do.
them, put them as a favorite spot at home. I think they lay an egg.
Yeah. It's the Colts are a team I just, except for the last game, I don't like,
Yeah,
taking too much. Um, Coming off a stinker against the Jags, who are surprisingly pretty solid this year. Chargers gets the Texans. Herbert, I don't think. I mean, he's definitely. I know he's not himself, and he's not 100% healthy, and that's
yeah,
certainly
agreed.
that certainly impacted last game. And it's probably going to impact this game. That being said, the Texans just lost to the Bears, who I still think are one of the worst teams in football. So they're pretty terrible too. Um, I think the Chargers are going to win this game, but I think the Titans have impressed a little bit this year, at least me. And if I had to pick a side, it'd be plus 5.5.
Really.
That being said, I would never recommend taking this. But if I had to pick a side, which I never would in this game because of Justin Herbert's status, it would be the Texans. That's my quick synopsis. What do you think?
I'm just like, I think after watching last week, I'm ready to just throw it out the door with everything I saw from the Chargers. I think you're getting a good value here at minus 5.5.
I
I'm ready to take
really
the Chargers back. Coming off 2 straight losses now.
yeah.
Like we've mentioned, I mean that division isn't playing insanely up to their hype, but I think the Broncos are going to slowly start to figure it out. The Raiders are probably going to beat them this week. I think it's going to pick up. I think the Chargers are going to get this win here
You know what? You convinced
pretty
me. I kind
easily.
of like the Chargers minus 5.5. Honestly, you made a lot of sense. I love that take.
It's just you can't lose this game. I know it's only 5.5, but no,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm just too. The way Justin Herbert did not look like himself, and that's what scares me a lot.
Yeah.
As a reminder, Prize Picks, daily fantasy, basically just betting in parlays, legal in a bunch of states. Especially, I mean, even the ones that don't have like a DraftKings or FanDuel, so definitely worth looking into if you got that gambling itch. Use the code ProPicks to match your deposit up, get some free money. As Chris, I always talk about, gives away a decent amount of free money with these free squares and this deposit match. So because of that, you can see how much money that we've made in a year's time. I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. Speeding up here against the football team, I'm still going to call them that. You can't be a football team for this one season. I mean, they're not call you that. Against the Cowboys on the road. Cowboys defense looks so good. So good. They look really good. I like Micah Parsons a lot. He keeps getting like Lawrence Taylor comparisons, which is just crazy to think about because he's just the undisputed best linebacker of all time. And then Demarcus Lawrence, you saw that pass rush against the Giants, stuff that makes a difference. The Washington football team offense is incompetent. The Eagles defense, which is probably better than the Cowboys, but I don't think they're too far apart. Completely shut them down. And again, their defense doesn't look, the football team defense doesn't look all that great. I think I would be taking the Cowboys minus 2.5 here over anything. Any quick additions to that analysis?
Nothing to really add on. Have a lot of the same thoughts here. Just a slight lean on the Cowboys. Nothing I'm going to be taking because I can't fully get behind Rush at quarterback, but they do look like
It's
the
hard.
better team.
Yeah.
Just more competent. That Washington offense it's like 2 straight games of scoreless first half now, I think.
Yeah, it's brutal to watch.
Yeah.
I'm getting really upset as being a Terry McLaurin fantasy owner. It's frustrating. Eagles, one or two football teams in the NFL that are 3-0, hosting the Jags that had a pretty decisive win against the Chargers on the road too. I do think, here's my quick little thing. Jaguars defense very solid, and I think their offense with Doug Pearson is a little bit revitalized. I sprinkled some, maybe an irresponsible amount, on the Jaguars to win the division. I think it is a great
I
value.
like it.
I like it. I love their defense showed me. Again, I don't think it's gonna be too big of an overreaction to the Chargers win. That's not what it's about. It's about how well the defense have played this whole stretch. I think the Eagles have a really good defense too. I think the Eagles are gonna win this game just because they're a little bit more experienced in football team. But I like the under this game. Two really good defenses in this one. And maybe even a Doug Pearson revenge game. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, both these teams look much better than. Or honestly, I really thought the Eagles were going to be good this year.
We're on the Eagles. I would not be. I had big money on the Eagles
division. I just think I'm surprised by the Jags, but at the end of the day, they just needed a competent head coach.
And they got it. I think they got their guy in Doug Pearson. It seems like.
All that being said, I think the Eagles are going to be a team at the end of the year that we're talking about is Super Bowl contenders. I think they have everything you need.
I think they jumped to
As
three.
far as the
The odds.
defense plus the offense, I think they're both very explosive. Well, like good offensive line, good defensive line. You got playmakers on both sides of the ball. I think
Devonta
this
Smith,
Eagles
dude.
team is going to slowly creep up into that NFC contender if they're already not in that
Oh,
conversation.
dude, I looked at the lines. They're the favorite Super Bowl favorite out of the NFC now.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
think I don't think
they
that's the right
deserve
team to be
it.
betting on the NFC, but they're the
I think
Super Bowl
they're going to
favorite
win
on the
that
NFC.
division easily now. But yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to Bills game. 3.5 favorites come off a loss against the Ravens. Thing for me, so the stat I saw, when the Bills win, they're winning by double digits every time. So my new theory is if I think the Bills are going to win,
Take them spread.
which is just about every single game, I'm going to take them spread. So I'm going to take them spread this game too. The Ravens D has not looked as good as I thought. The fact that Mac Jones and that
That's what I was just going to
put up
ask.
so many points, like the Ravens offense and Lamar Jackson's clicking, I think the Bills defense could have to slow them down enough. I don't know. And I think a part of the Ravens D is the new defensive coordinator because I love Don Martingale there, but now he's gone. I think it's Mike McDonald is your new defense coordinator in Baltimore. Not a big fan of him so far. I think the Bills are going to kind of if Mac Jones and the Patriots, who just don't have any playmakers on offense, can put up points, imagine what the Bills can do. Is my
Yeah.
thought process here.
Yeah, just adding on to that, I do think the Bills definitely the better football team at this point. It's a big line, but I kind of like the over here. Lamar's playing MVP level.
He's dude.
People
I
aren't
knew he was
talking
going to
about
do
it
this.
enough. They are talking about it, but I feel like Josh Allen's still getting a lot of that shine. I think Lamar is going to
Lamar's playing
try to
MVP
make a
level.
statement game. I think this one goes over.
Yeah,
With
I
how
like
bad
that.
the Ravens defense has been.
I mean, Lamar, I think we talked about this before the season started. Contract year for Lamar. He's the one dude, especially out of anyone like who I think will be motivated with that contract year and play better because of it than any quarterback in football. I think he's just got that prove it wrong mentality since he got drafted out of college. And I love that. Here's a game that, Mac Jones, high ankle sprain. I don't even think he's supposed to play. He's got
It's supposed to be like Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer. He got legitimately carried off the field at the end of the game. Very valiant effort for him. I was impressed by his toughness. I'm not going to talk too much about this game because the line says it all. Brian Hoyer against Aaron Rodgers. Packers defense is top 3 in the league, and that might be disrespectful for them saying top 3. And Packers are going to win the game. I don't 10.5's a lot against a Bill Belichick team, but Packers are. I said so. I would just expect if Mac Jones played and he was 100% healthy, the Packers are winning this game.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
mean,
a good game to throw in a teaser, but
that's what I'm thinking too. I couldn't find any other because so many close games this week. I couldn't find any good lines that really like to tease it with. Maybe that'll change as the week progresses, though. It's a shame we don't have too much more time to talk about this, but we can give it a little bit more time in the other games. But the Chiefs and Bucks here, Chiefs minus 2.5 favorites on the road, coming off a loss matters, but the Bucks too. But I think it's a little bit different. I think the Chiefs, one, were due for a letdown game against the Colts, as we keep alluding to in this video. But number 2, it seemed like they were a little. Him and Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, Mahomes, were drawn a little bit. They seemed not see eye to eye in the play calling there that game. I think that the Bucks, their offensive line's obviously an issue, but that's been known. I think that's going to be the difference in the game. And the health of the wide receivers with Mike Evans' suspension didn't help, but Julio Jones, Godwin still being out too. Like these guys don't have a ton of first team reps. They're certainly not the most talented guys in the roster. And for that reason, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to beat the Bucks in a bounce back game. We had a little more. I know I was rushing through that. We got a little more time to talk about it. If you have any,
oh yeah, I don't. I kind of like how you're leaning here. Obviously, it's not often you get a team like the Buccaneers plus money at home, so the odds makers. I
Yeah.
feel like they just know that the Chiefs have the better matchup here, the healthier team. Yeah, I feel like I've fallen victim too many times to taking a team like the Bucks here plus money at home.
Yeah, to me, it's just like they need a little more time as a unit, one to get healthy, but to get reps together. With either Tom Brady with the second team guys who are now the first team guys, or get the regular guys healthy. And I don't think Julio Jones will really be healthy all that much this year because he hasn't really been healthy all that much in the last few years. But Godwin coming back from that injury that's been kept out last season and this season too will be huge. Mike Evans has got to not shove bodies around. He'll keep playing, hopefully. But I think it's just this is what they did when the Bucks won the Super Bowl. I'm not surprised at all by this start. They're going to start slow, but they're going to just rattle off wins in the second half of the year. So I'm not worried about them at all. But this seems like a game the Chiefs win, who are playing in a much more competitive division than the Bucs. And then the last game we're talking about, Rams on the road against the Niners, -2.5 point favorites here. I have not been all that impressed by the Rams. Kind of expected this from the Niners, but maybe a little more production out of Deebo Samuel and Shanahan-led offense. But not a ton to say about this. I think it's certainly be a close game. I lean the Niners here because I think if you watched that NFC Championship game last year, I still think the Niners should have won that. Matt Stafford threw a terrible throw. No one within 20 yards of the ball except the 49ers safety, and just went right through his arms. And then it led to a Rams game-winning drive. I think these two teams match really well together, but I'm taking the home team here. I think Jimmy G plays well against these guys. I think the Niners D plays really well against the Rams. And the two head coaches that have a lot of history that play each other a lot and grew up in the NFL together.
Personally on the Rams on this one. I don't know. I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Niners so far. I know they have the more well-rounded defense and just overall weapons, but I'm on the Rams. I think
it's going to be a Deebo Samuel versus Cooper Kupp matchup here. That's for sure. But just a quick review of the bets before we head out real quick. Cardinals money line, we like that. On the road against the Panthers, who are terrible. Raiders -2 is a lock. I love that bet for you, Sliwa, against the Broncos try to get a win on the board. And then the Browns -1.5 on the road against the Falcons. But that'll do it for the video. Definitely let us know what you think in the comment section. And we will see you guys in week 5.